there literally is no way that we could have raised that money without God wanting us to go. This is the team that went with us, and here's the one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to make this vacation pictures, that you invite your family over or friends over to see your vacation picture. I don't want to do that. But I can tell you this, it's called Work and Witness for a reason. We were able to work on the Church of the Nazarene in Jerusalem, I came home just about half dead because of all the work that we did. Me and two other ladies painted 26 gallons of paint. It was not just paint. We had to prepare the walls and do drywall and all kinds of stuff before we could do that. So it was a lot of work. This is the group. I think Sheila might have been the youngest one there. I don't know. Or maybe Russ Gum, pastor of the Mount Vernon Church. They were all old people.
Hey.
And so, but old people still got it. Okay, they did a great job. This is a picture. We're standing on the Mount of Olives, and we're looking over across to the Temple Mount. You see the Dome of the Rock there.
There were actually 5 churches represented. There was Medina, Elyria, Mount Vernon First, Willard, and Shelby.
Yeah. So this is Pastor Shihade. And he is the church, the pastor of the church in Jerusalem. There's actually 2 Nazarene churches that meet in this building. And one of them is a Korean Nazarene church. And so they have a good-sized congregation. Pastor Shihade has an English service on Friday night. But he was the one who was there to help us and translate and do all the things that is necessary. And he's a young guy with a young family, and you'll see some pictures of them here in a little bit. I was able to bring the message on one of the Friday nights that we were there. And what an awesome experience. In fact, 17 years ago, I was able to go and was in this particular room. And I wasn't able to preach at that time, but my son Adam and I had gone, and Adam played and sang on this pulpit, this stage behind me. He played and sang there when we were there, and so it was an honor to preach there. After the service, they always have, they meet with the Korean group. A lot of the people from the Korean church come, so we had sushi and soup for supper that night. And we have a lot of people we had one guy in particular that every time we'd go to a place to eat, he'd say, they have American food, because I want American food. And I said, man, you might as well get used to it. They don't have American food. And if it looks like it might be American, it isn't going to taste like you think it should. 26 gallons of paint, drywall repair, cleaning, concrete repair. We poured some concrete. Power washed the exterior of the building, trimmed trees and clearing out the shrubs, fixing outside lighting, and patching walls and painting and laying laminate flooring for a children's room. A lot of work done in those 2 weeks that we were there. Our goal was to bring the curb appeal up so people would want to bring their kids and come there. It's so important for a church to have that look, or to be clean, or to look good, and so it was important for them. So you can see some of the repairing, patching, and things that were going on. And keep going. When we got finished with this huge room, I think the room is probably about 14 feet tall. So we painted this huge room, and that's where they meet the Friday night service. And this was the aftermath of that cleaning and painting.
The first Friday night we were up in the regular sanctuary because we had this one a mess. But this is their normal, where they are currently. And this is Pastor Shahade's wife, was the worship leader. Someone asked us, did they sing all the old hymns? Nope, we sang what we sing here. This one was Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord. And so,
it's a real young congregation.
Young congregation, yes. This was before worship. Yara decided that Pastor Doc and I were her buddies. And so we spent, she was, during worship time, she was with us. And a lot of times they would find her with us.
Yara was Pastor Shihade's daughter, the oldest daughter,
yes.
and they had two girls.
And it was really interesting. She's only 3 years old, but she's in kindergarten. And it was really interesting because kindergarten is over there, you go 4 days a week, and you can choose what days you want to go. So like if you get up on Monday and your child doesn't want to go to school or you don't want to send your child, you just wait and send them the next day. Or as long as you get in 2 of the 4 days, it's okay. But they start them really early.
This was the children's room that we worked on. It was a mess. I wouldn't want my kids in there. It was a very hard room. And it was acoustically, you went in there and just spoke just normal, and there was such an echo. It was so hard. So we were able to do some work and paint that room, and then they put down a laminate floor. It was kind of a softer floor, and the work was done. The finished product was really, really nice, and they brought in some toys and things for the kids to play with. The outside of the building was in real need of a pick-me-up. And so every place over there, because of security, is gated. You have the gate locks all the time, and they want to make sure that everybody's safe. All the way around the perimeter of the property is gated. Everything's locked up. But the cross on top of the church normally would glow. And after dark, it would come on automatically. Well, everything with weather had deteriorated that to the place that wouldn't work anymore. Of course, everything over there's no 110, and so anytime you work on electric, it's always 220. And so that was fun, that you could die at any moment as you worked with that.
And going to the hardware or the paint store was a all-day event most of the time. For those of you that knew, I took a fall while we were there. This picture here shows what is the roof, okay? So when I say I fell on the roof, it's not a roof of what you think that we have here. This is actually a place you go up and everything. I tripped on a stupid wire.
On 2 feet.
What? Yeah, messed my face up for a few days and everything. So
she looked like I'd hit her a couple times, but
he did. We had people looking at us funny. Yeah. So
I said, I'm glad you were here where everybody could see that this happened. So Charlie Robb from the Shelby Church, he's was the chief of police at Shelby, and he did a lot of the pressure washing while we were there. The exterior of the building was, just like I said, the junk, pulling weeds, cutting trees. Sheila spent one whole afternoon pulling bay leaves. Bay you cook with, isn't it bay? Mm-hmm. I almost said basil, but it's not basil.
Bay leaves, yeah.
It's bay leaves, and the bay leaves were growing in around the wall, and they were trimming all those out. So she spent a whole day pulling bay leaves and brought just packages and packages of bay leaves home.
In this picture, you'll see where they were with the garden. They were clearing out the garden and stuff. When we first went, I was leery of if I was going to be able to do anything. Am I going to be able to be an asset to the team, or was I going to just be a hindrance? And so I found that I was good at a couple hours into the work, making sure I took lemonade around everybody. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Yeah. But in these pictures here, Russ Gum, pastor at Mount Vernon First, he tore out all of the junk in the gardens and everything, and then I carried it to the dumpster. And I found that I could do, things like that, even though I couldn't paint and stuff. I found my niche. And when I couldn't do things like that, they would find me praying, because I could always pray. So.
This is the exterior of the building around the compound, where it's all barbed wire fences and things to try to keep people out.
And this is a young 70-year-old man up there.
Yeah, that 70-year-old man up there standing up on ladders and stuff. He was up there doing the trimming of the trees. Sheila did actually pick up a shovel for this picture.
No. I actually did on this one.
We were patching a hole in the driveway and the pad around the church, and she shoveled some concrete, and then she found out she was really good at working the garden hose, and so she did that. And what was funny, you see the guys in the one picture, they're up on the roof. Well, years ago, somebody had brought a bunch of gravel, and they needed it on the roof for something, and so all the gravel was on the roof. In order for us to mix it with the concrete, they had to, with a bucket, lower it over the side and a rope down to us, and then we could mix it up in a wheelbarrow and then put it together. There's an apartment upstairs that's built right next to the church, or not next to, but they're connecting, and that's usually for the pastor's family, who is the pastor of the church. And it's in disrepair. There's probably going to need another team to go in there and remodel that area, but these guys were getting rid of stuff out of that apartment that's up there.
And once again, you'll see that they had to lower things down to get them out.
This was the final finished product of the building.
Beautiful.
The sign that says Nazarene Church, the dark sign against the building, all that was taken off. Everything was pressure washed. New lighting was put in. The cross up on top now comes on at sundown, and you can see it as far as, if you've got a clear shot at looking at the church, then you can see it. The Church of the Nazarene in Israel has 4 places now that they do ministry. There's the church in Jerusalem, the church in Nazareth, you'll see a picture of here in a little bit, the church in Haifa, and then now there's a new start in the Golan Heights. And they've just started this new start church in the Golan Heights. And so we just need to really pray for them. This is the Church of the Nazarene in Nazareth. I worked on this church when I first went there 17 years ago. I got the chance to play the drums and fool around there a little bit. Their pulpit is made out of olive wood, and so beautiful.
A beautiful sanctuary.
We're going to start in the process now of taking you to places that really, as we go through the praise, I can't talk. The life of Jesus. Yeah, we're going to take you to some of those places and just show you some of the pictures. Again, we don't want it just to be vacation video photos. It's this is the Church of the Annunciation. This is in Nazareth. This is the place where Mary received the information from the angel that she was going to have a child, and so Jesus was announced. Beautiful church, and I said in my one day each one of us had devotions one day, and I was talking to the people, and I said, you know, what you'll notice about this is that every place that something happened in Israel, they built a church over it. Only I said, if Paul was riding a camel and that camel peed on a flat rock someplace, they built a church over it. Basically what it is. But they did that to protect that place so that it could be for generations and generations to come. From there we go to Nazareth on the West Bank. And down Nazareth is the place, of course, where Jesus was born, the Church of the Nativity. This is a picture of the place supposedly where the star shone down.
It's Bethlehem is where Jesus was born.
Oh, did I say Nazareth?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're switching too fast. Bethlehem, yeah. He was born in Bethlehem on the West Bank.
Yes.
Now, okay. Sorry. Things are running together. As you enter the church in Bethlehem, they refigured this door over and over because they'd had so many attacks. People, busting through and messing this church up and that kind of thing. but the church door is, you can see that person standing there, it's about this high. And so everybody that goes into this church has to bow. And so I thought that was pretty interesting that, you bow down to the place that Jesus was born. Just some pictures. From there, we went to some place I had never been.
I loved it.
It was called Shepherd's Field, and they have a place that's nearby there in Bethlehem where the Bible says that the shepherds were tending their flocks, and the angel of the Lord came to them. And they have a grotto or a cave that's there, and lots of statues and things. But in that cave, we sang a Christmas carol, "O come all ye faithful," because that, of course, was the place that was announced to the shepherds that Jesus was born. From there, of course, in Jesus' life, we know that not much happened between birth. We couldn't go to Egypt, but we know he went back to Nazareth. But as a 12-year-old boy, he ended up in Jerusalem. And this is a picture of the Wailing Wall, or the Western Wall. And then Sheila and I had our opportunities to go and pray. The last time I was there was something going on, and we weren't allowed to approach the wall. But this time, I made it a point. I was able not only to go to the wall, I prayed for our church. I prayed for God's will and His direction for our church. And I spent some time there praying and asking God for His direction and leadership, as far as I go, leading the church and vision for the church. And Sheila was able to go to the ladies' side and pray. And it was a special place for me. I was also able to go into the tunnel that's right adjacent to the wall, back in where they keep it's called the Arks, where they have the Torah. And I've got some of the, not pictures today, but if we're going to have other pictures available for you to look at if you're interested in that. This was a group of people who were Jews who were there visiting from another country, and they were so excited to be in that place called the Kotel. They were so excited to be in that place by the Western Wall. They were singing and dancing, and they had Israeli flags wrapped around them, and hooping and hollering, and they were praising praising God for allowing them to make what's called Aliyah, or to make a pilgrimage to the homeland. Of course, we know when Jesus was a little boy, he went to the Temple Mount. He went to the temple, and he was talking with the religious leaders, and they found how they were amazed at his understanding. And so I call it Jesus Bar Mitzvah. That's the place where he answered questions, and they thought, wow, this kid knows what he's doing. And so the Temple Mount, of course, has two structures on them. About 700 years ago, the Muslims moved in. And any place there was a temple or a building or a church that was represented to God, or they came in and built a mosque. So the one that you hear on the news a lot, this is a part of that mosque that you can see, the Alaska Mosque. If you hear about them fighting on the Temple Mount, it's because of this, and also the Dome of the Rock, that great big dome. That Dome of the Rock supposedly sits on the place that the temple sat, and that rock is supposed to be where the Holy of Holies was in the temple. And so they definitely don't want the Jews up there. And a lot of police, we had some of our group did go up on the Temple Mount. I'd been there before, and I didn't want to go up and have that kind of confrontation. So, of course, from there, we know that Jesus in his life eventually had to go. He was baptized, and which really started his ministry. But as you go towards where Jesus was baptized, you go through Jericho. Jericho is considered the oldest city in the world. It's also 1,300 feet below sea level. And not quite the lowest spot on earth, but we were close to the lowest spot on earth. We did go down to the Dead Sea, which is the lowest spot below sea level on earth. And
we weren't able to actually go right up to the Dead Sea because it was getting close to 5 o'clock at that time, and the area at the Dead Sea is very unsafe, and 5 o'clock is the cutoff time, and so we weren't able to go in.
That Bible story you read about, where Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he, and he climbed up in a sycamore tree. This is supposedly the tree that he climbed in. So I don't know if it is or not, but that's what they say. Tradition tells them and tells us that that's where it was.
We went to the baptismal site of the Jordan River where Jesus was baptized, and this was a very special time for me. It was a Sunday, first of all, which I thought was really cool. Beautiful place, flowers and everything, was just gorgeous. But Doc rebaptized me there on that day, and there was actually 9 of our group between Doc and Russ Gum. They baptized him, rebaptized him, and it was just a really, really special time. It was just really neat to do. And then we went to the Sea of Galilee, and this was another time that was special for me. There was one place that was where I don't know if it was like the exact place or if it's just the story, that's where they said it. But anyways, the history with it was that when Peter was reinstated, and it was at this particular place that we're standing there that it just really hit me that I was a believer, and then I fell away from the Lord, and then He reinstated me. And it hit me that if I wouldn't have went through that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And as I'm standing there, and there's like all of these rocks and, seashells and everything there, I looked down, and I picked up this one rock, and the Lord spoke to me. And He said, "Daughter, you see those grooves on that rock?" And I said, "Yes, Lord." And He said, "You have been forgiven of everything that you went through, and you do not have to worry about it. And the grooves in this rock are part of your life that will never go away. But turn the rock over, and the smoothness of the rock is my life for you today." And I just was praising God. I walked away from everybody else and had my moment and everything. And Doc, when I turned around, Doc was kind of looking at me because I was blubbering, and as I do frequently. And it was like, that was my moment with God. It was so cool that He spoke to me like He did. And it was so cool that this one rock out of thousands and thousands there was what He told me to pick up. And that was cool. I love this place. And when Doc came back from Israel in '98 and said, "Oh, I just felt like I was at home," I thought he was crazy. And I really wondered what that meant. But I can tell you that when I was there, I felt at home. And when we get all of our pictures, they're in the process of being developed, but if you have the chance to look through our albums, you're going to see that I got to sit at some amazing places and write in my journal. it about killed me that I couldn't share with you guys each and every day what I was doing, because we couldn't, because of safety. So I couldn't say I was at the Sea of Galilee, and I couldn't say I was baptized and things. But now that I'm back, and for those of you that have already heard or read a lot of my journals, I'm so blessed, and I just want to bless others with what I experienced there.
It's also the place, of course, where Jesus called his disciples. Of course, many of them were fishermen, and he called them, and a lot of his ministry had to deal with around the Sea of Galilee.
We actually got to eat tilapia fish that was caught in the Sea of Galilee, and when they brought it out to us, not everybody chose to eat it because it was with its head on and complete fish.
It was watching you eat it. So.
But it was good. It was really good.
We were able to go to a kibbutz that was over in the Golden Heights, and that's where we had our tilapia.
Explain what a kibbutz is.
A kibbutz is like a communal living place where the people will choose to live and work together. Some are school teachers, and some are farmers, and some are auto mechanics, and some are restaurant owners, and they do all kinds of things that just helps them to be able to live communally. They sell a lot of the produce that comes out of there. Our guide told us that we went by these banana trees, and Pastor Shihadi said, now the difference between bananas from Israel and bananas from around the world is our bananas are straight. They're not curved. He said they actually have to go then to a factory where they curve them. And he said the people that work there, the best ones that work there, curve them with their mind. And so that kind of tells you who our guide was. He lied to us the whole time we were there.
He had us going for a while.
The city of Capernaum, of course, called the town of Jesus. And then that's the place where Peter lived. That's where his house was. We were able to go also to the Mount of Beatitudes, beautiful gardens and things there that overlook the Sea of Galilee. From there, of course, Jesus spent a lot of time in Judea, but he would frequent go back to friends who were living in Bethany. Bethany, of course, is where Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus lived, and that was up on the other side or near the Mount of Olives. And so, back to the Mount of Olives, this is an olive tree that is figured, there's several of them there, but it's figured that it's probably over 2,000 years old, as big as it is.
It's amazing.
So this is in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed, took his disciples frequently and prayed, but just big, these huge olive trees. And then this is a stone carving of Jesus, of course. Before he went to the cross, he knelt and he asked God to take the cup from him if that was possible. And so from there, of course, Jesus was arrested and he was taken to Caiaphas's house. In this church, underneath this is Caiaphas's house. And underneath Caiaphas's house in the basement, there were places where like pits that they would put people in to hold them for, to go through a trial of some sort, like Jesus did. It's hard to see, but this church has a rooster on top of it, on the weather vane. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but you recall also that Peter followed along as they took Jesus to Caiaphas's house after he was arrested, and it was there that Peter denied Christ 3 times. From there, we go into the old city, and the Church of Condemnation. This is the place where Jesus was taken next from Caiaphas, the chief priest, and he was taken to this place to go before Pilate to be judged. And this arch over the street, they think, was part of of the place where Caiaphas made his announcement to the people that Jesus was going to be crucified. We followed then from that place through the old city called the Way of Sorrows, or the Via Dolorosa. There's, I can't remember how many stations of the cross there is, but you'll go down the road and go down the street and you'll see a sign that says, this is this station, the place where Jesus fell down, or this is the place where Jesus saw his mother, or, those kinds of things, all the way through the old city. Along in the old city, you'll see shops. I mean, as where we walked, or where supposedly Jesus went through, there's shops all the way through there. Bread shops and bakeries and candy shop. Yeah, their candy shop was fantastic.
Only their candy wasn't our candy. Like, it was just different. And their sweets were not like our sweets. They weren't sweet. They were not overly sweet. I don't understand.
Semi-sweet.
It doesn't make sense to me. You see this cake and it looks like it's like something really, really sweet and rich and everything. And then you take a bite of it and it wasn't overly sweet, which was really nice. And I don't know how they do it, but it is just wonderful. But one of the things in these pictures, you'll see in the bottom picture there, was the beef and the
meat
fish
market
and everything
hanging out there where everybody can see it.
Yeah, that was kind of ucky too, but
We're still on the Via Dolorosa, and Charlie and I got to stop by with the Israeli police officers, and
they had their machine guns.
Oh,
that was part of life. As you walk down the street, they were there with their guns and everything.
From there, of course, we go to the place of crucifixion. Jesus carried his cross to Golgotha, the place of the skull. This is the church of, I can't remember what it's called. Anybody remember? Anyway, this is the place where the cross is. Supposedly the traditional place, we'll call it that. And it's hard to see, but there's above this altar, there is a cross with Jesus hanging on it. Of course, it's a Catholic church that is the ones who are overseeing this. Underneath there, you'll see the people will bend down and see, and they said it's where the blood would run down the cross and into the ground. The belief is that Adam, the first man who ever lived, his grave was under there at Golgotha. And the blood of Jesus Christ ran down and into the ground and into the heart of Adam, and therefore creating a way for Adam to, and all of Adam's race to be able to be saved. I'm not sure that's the way it is or not, but that's what we saw. Of course, this is a picture of the place where supposedly they laid Jesus' body before they buried him, and they cleaned his body and prepared his body for the burial place. The next is the traditional tomb inside the church. We just took a picture of inside that place, supposedly where the body laid. Now, the problem is that tradition tells one story, but visual sight tells another. There's a place that is just outside the Damascus Gate, and it's a place many years ago where somebody looked across from the old city and they saw this, and it looks like a skull. Unfortunately, the deterioration of weather and those kinds of things have happened, but it's called the Garden Tomb. It's the place where some think that the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea was where Jesus was buried. This is called the Garden Tomb. And I can tell you this, Sheila and I went into both tombs and there were no bones in either one. So I can guarantee you that Jesus rose from the dead. Okay, he wasn't there. Okay, in fact, the next picture says that. He is not here, for he is risen. And of course, we're not sure. In the Garden Tomb area, of course, Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man. And so he had his own tomb. The Bible says that Jesus would be buried with the rich, and he had his own tomb carved out and made. And the interesting thing about this area in the garden tomb was there was a wine press, there was an olive press, there was a cistern where they could keep water. So they think maybe Joseph's house was there. This was his property, and he just had his tomb made. Well, it says Jesus was laid in a borrowed tomb, and so it's a possibility. This may have been the tomb where Jesus was laid. After that, in the garden tomb, we were able to take the Lord's Supper, and we shared together. Four pastors there sharing the process of communion and serving communion to the team. Our last picture, of course, is a picture of the Golden Gate. We know that Jesus arose from the dead, and he's with his Father, but he's coming back. This gate is very interesting because if you don't want somebody to come through a gate, the best way to make it so they can't get back in is to cement it up, right? To stone it up so they can't get back in. Supposedly, this is the place where Jesus will come to the Mount of Olives, which is across the valley from the Temple Mount. He'll come to the Mount of Olives, and then he'll come across that valley, and he will enter through this gate when he comes back. So when the Muslims came about 700 years ago, they figured, well, we can't have him coming back through this gate, so we're going to close it up. So this is the only gate from the old city and the Temple Mount that has been closed shut. They don't want him to come back because they don't believe in him, but they're a little afraid, they're a little nervous that he might come back, so let's close it up. Not only that, but you'll see in front of that gate is a graveyard. That is a Muslim graveyard. And the way they feel is a holy man will not walk through a graveyard. Holy men didn't have anything to do with dead bodies or graveyards because they were unclean. And so they're trying their best to keep him from coming back through this gate. Well, folks, I can tell you that he will come through this gate. No amount of concrete or no amount of gravestones or whatever laying there are going to keep him from coming back. Russ?
I was up on the other side. I tried every way I could to get down that gate. They had deep 3 times. They chased me out.
Yeah. I actually tried to do the same thing 17 years ago to get down to where that gate was, and they don't want anybody around it. They're afraid of that gate, and so they closed it up.
You know, the one thing that I observed when we were in Israel was no matter if they believe in Jesus or who they believe in, what they believe in, no matter what, the people over there are passionate. They are passionate about what they believe in. And I was thinking when I was over there and then even coming back, I was thinking how we are missing out so much because we are not passionate enough. You know, I know some of you sitting out there saying, well, I've got passion for the Lord. Well, great, I'm happy for you, but is it enough? I know I don't have enough. I know I need more passion for Him. I want to be like the people of Israel that are passionate. Not necessarily do I want to be like the one, I don't want to be like all of them because there's some of them over there that believe in, things other than Jesus. But I want to be passionate about my Lord. I definitely want to be passionate. And I just ask that in the days ahead that you pray for me to be more passionate, to be more open to tell people about the Lord. We talked about that in my teen Sunday school class today, about what it takes to share the Lord. And I want more of that.
We, you know how you wonder about, okay, why did God want us to go on this trip so bad? What was it? Was it so we could teach people, so our faith would grow stronger, so that we could, what is the reason, God? And I can tell you this, that my desire is to follow Christ. Mm-hmm. And I saw the places that he walked. I walked on places that he walked. And some people say, well, how can you be sure of that? We were able to go in the Western Wall tunnels underneath all of the whole city and walk on the original streets that went around the outside of the Western Wall. And our Jewish guide said, if you believe in Jesus, Jesus walked on this ground right here. It hasn't been excavated, it hasn't been anything done. This goes right down to the base rock of the side of the Temple Mount, the wall. And he said, if you believe in him, he walked here. Because everybody would walk around the outside of this ground. Folks, I want to follow God.
Amen.
And I want you to follow God. And whatever it takes, we will be trying to accomplish that.
Amen.
And give you reason to be able to do that. Let me pray for you. We're going to dismiss. Thank you, Father.